to another edition of L.I.F.T tutoring. You can see I'm a little off-centered on purpose because I have this wonderful new green screen behind me. Now, you might be wondering why I'm wearing a Pokemon shirt today. Now, if you are at all involved in anything Nintendo Switch and everything about Nintendo Switch, then you have heard about the new Pokemon games. So I thought that that would be a great way to have the theme for today's episode based on some things, because I haven't talked to the parents. I haven't talked to you parents in a while about some things that you should know for your children's education. So get ready, because we are going to really dive into something that's a bit fast and furious, and I will be using Pokemon as a reference of what it is, how to explain what I'm talking about in more easier to understand terms. Okay, so today I want to talk to you guys about what's called Bloom's Taxonomy. Now, Bloom's Taxonomy might sound like something you'd hear about at a flower store, and you're probably wondering exactly what it is, why I would be talking about such a thing. Bloom's Taxonomy is the way that we start to learn and how do we reach critical thinking. So when you are doing certain activities with your children, here's what you need to keep in mind when it comes to furthering their education and getting them to really get into their critical thinking and being able to have rigor to learn what they're learning and be able to demonstrate, because demonstrating your learning is a way for you as a parent and us teachers to know when a child really has a concept down. Okay, so Bloom's Taxonomy, the lowest level of what your children, how your children learn, is it comes to remembering. Okay, so remembering is being able to find something, being able to duplicate it, being able to make a list, being able to memorize it. Memorize just what it is, what's coming at you. So for example, when you take Pokemon, children may be able to know all the Pokemon's names and all the moves and things like that. They're just remembering. Think of remembering as being able to memorize all the Pokemon's names. Next, you're moving up is to understand. Okay, so the understand is an explanation. It's an explanation of ideas or certain concepts. So you can classify, you can discuss what's going on, you can identify different Pokemon. So you may have known all the Pokemon's names, but now you're able to identify them and classify them into electric type, and classify them into the leaf type and water type and things like that. So we're building on the way we learn. First, it starts with memorizing and remembering, and then it starts for understanding and being able to explain and categorize. So being able to say all the Pokemon and then being able to put them in different lists and being able to categorize them. Next on the pyramid on Bloom's Taxonomy for really getting, if your children understand a concept and can apply certain concepts, is apply. This is, they can use this information that they've learned in new situations. They can solve problems with it. They can demonstrate or interpret what it means. So, for example, we just started with remembering the Pokemon's names, understanding that there are different types of Pokemon, and now in the apply phase, we can interpret, okay, well, fire type beats water and water beats leaf, and then you're starting to apply your knowledge of what you've memorized and classified, and now you're going further up. And you see how it's not just we're memorizing for a test, but we're slowly getting to a point where children's critical thinking and rigor can go further into the subject area that they're learning. Okay? The next phase of Bloom's Taxonomy is the analyzing, the analytical part of this. Okay? This, you can draw different connections amongst ideas, like differentiating, organizing, relating, comparing, and contrast. So now it's not just good enough to know the Pokemon's names. It's not just good enough to understand and classify where they go. It's not just good enough to demonstrate how one Pokemon is stronger or weaker to another Pokemon. Now you are comparing contrast. Now why would Charizard be better than Blaziken in a certain situation? Why would a fighting type be better than a rock type? And you're starting to analyze and really go into your thinking. So we've started with something very basic as remembering, and now we're going into compare and contrast. So the next step on the Bloom's Taxonomy is to evaluate. Okay, we're not quite at the tip-top level of knowing whether our children have the subject matter down, but in the evaluation stage of your children being able to critically think about a subject matter, they can argue and defend and justify or stand on their decision. So even though we've analyzed, okay, so this one, we've organized it, we've compared, we've contrasted, and now we're starting to form an opinion on what it is that we believe. And this is why I tell to parents all the time to talk to your children and have discussions, because you're going to end up getting to that evaluation phase and they need to be able to defend what it is that they believe based on the knowledge that they've accumulated in the remember, understand, apply, and analyze stages of Bloom's taxonomy. Who would win in a fight versus Venusaur, Charizard, and Blastoise? This is like one of the main discussions in the Pokemon community for a very, very long time. For children to be able to evaluate and defend their answers on what they think comes from all the knowledge that they've gained previously. Now, the very top level of the Bloom's taxonomy to really demonstrate your understanding and really demonstrate your children to demonstrate that they understand a subject matter is to create, okay? So they can produce a new original work. So basically, they have learned all they can about Pokemon and the entire universe of what Pokemon entails. If they then can create something based on the subject matter that they've learned, and it makes sense with everything that they've remembered, understood, applied, analyzed, and evaluated, then you know that your children are at a certain level of critical thinking and are really getting into rigor and being able to display their understanding through a creative work. And that is the goal in education, is not just to get children to remember and understand something. That's great. It's to basically move towards a top-ended idea of being able to create their own original work. And so when you see, when you're thinking about what it is that you need to be doing with your children as a parent, it's to get them to critically think. This has been another edition of L.I.F.T Tutoring. Continue to go and develop a love for lifelong learning, and I hope that this gives you some context of what you can do with your own children as they come home and they talk about what they're learning in school. Have a great day, and we will catch you in the next video.